Secretary of State Antony Blinken issuing a brand new warning today to China after a hacking attempt against the U.S. government. During a meeting in Indonesia, Blinken reportedly told China's diplomat that the hackers will be held, quote, accountable. Officials say the Chinese hackers took aim at specific email accounts in the state and commerce departments, and they had ties to China's military or spy services. Beijing today denying any involvement. Andrew Wood now has the latest reporting from Hong Kong.
Well, if China is behind these attacks, then it's certainly not saying so. And I'd say that the spokesman for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, when he gave his daily media briefing in Beijing, seemed quite peeved about the accusation that the Chinese government might be behind the attacks. He said that America should give a proper explanation of the attacks, and he accused America, chided America, of putting out misinformation or disinformation and fooling or at least confusing the public. Now, the issue of China's ability to wage cyber warfare is something that worries NATO. At its recent summit in Vilnius, it issued a statement noting China's ability to, or cyber abilities, and it said that basically if there were a bad, harmful cyber attack by China, it implied, against a member of NATO, then that could be considered cause to invoke Article 5 of the Washington Treaty. That's the collective self-defense clause, and it means that if there is a bad attack, or the way they were interpreting it, if there's a bad cyber attack, it's as bad as a military attack, and therefore NATO could respond with military force if necessary. Well, the Chinese Foreign Affairs spokesman said that if that's the case, well, he certainly seemed to say that that NATO's cyber defense policy had been hijacked by a certain country. He didn't mention the name, but I do think he meant America.
All right, well, with more on this, China expert Gordon Chang joins us now. He's the author of two books, The Coming Collapse of China and The Great U.S.-China Tech War. Gordon, a lot to go through here, and certainly you're the right person to go through it, since you're very well versed in the ongoing war, really, and it has become a cyber war with China. So the U.S. says that the hackers were linked to China's military or spy agency. What we know is that they were able to get into the Microsoft accounts, into the State Department, from what we understand, what we're told, and I believe the U.S. Commerce Department. What does this signal to you? And this is just what we know. I mean, we know every day China is trying to hack into our infrastructure, into our military, into the Pentagon, into our federal government. Beijing won't admit to it, but what do we know thus far? What does this signal to you, and what action do you think the Biden administration will take, or at least should take, in response?
Well, the Biden administration should start imposing costs on China. And it's not just the Chinese military. We've indicted Chinese military officers before for hacking, but they'll never see the inside of a federal courtroom. What we need to do is say, look, the Chinese military reports to the Communist Party. Communist Party runs China. So let's start imposing some sanctions on the Communist Party and make them hurt. If we do that, we have a chance of stopping this. But we have to impose costs that are greater than the benefits that China gets from hacking. China gets substantial benefits from these cyber attacks. So we have to have some political will. We just have not been able to demonstrate that in this administration or in previous administrations. So China continues to hack.
Yeah, and China's foreign ministry says, and this is really not surprising, this is kind of the party line, right, that the U.S. is spreading false information to divert attention. We've heard this so much from China, that it's disinformation from the U.S., from the U.S. government. I mean, that's what we're seeing more so. But as far as sanctions, why do you think we're not doing that? I mean, we have before in the past. Is it an economic issue? Is it just a failure to put pressure on the Chinese government and Xi Jinping, or is there something more nefarious going on?
The Biden administration believes that we need to maintain these open lines of communication. And it also believes, although it won't say this, that if we do impose those costs, they just won't talk to us. And so they won't impose those costs. got to remember that after the spy balloon, which is this gross violation of American sovereignty, in addition to other things, the State Department actually postponed measures that it had previously scheduled to put in place. So China got a twofer. It got to spy on our nuclear weapons facilities, plus also it got us to back off on things that we should have been going after China for. So that's just a failure of diplomacy. And it goes to the heart of what the Biden administration is doing. So China sees this, and so it continues with bad conduct.
A lot of the discussion this week, understandably so, has been about NATO and the NATO summit, which just wrapped up in Lithuania. Let's talk about China's response to the summit. So Beijing raised concerns about an eastward, quote unquote, expansion of the alliance. What happens, Gordon, do you think, with U.S.-China relations when, and I guess it's not a question of if now, it's when Ukraine officially gets that invitation to join the alliance?
China will continue to support Russia's position on this. Russia believes that NATO should not expand, but the reason why is that these countries want to become part of NATO. Remember, Finland and Sweden have been neutral for decades, and all of a sudden, after the Ukraine war, they realize that they need to become part of the alliance. So this will continue. China will get upset, but we should just tell China, tough. If you're going to support Russia's war effort in Ukraine, we're going to defend ourselves. And by the way, the Biden administration has been saying it's going to impose sanctions on China for providing lethal assistance to Russia. China has been providing such assistance from the beginning of the war, and we do nothing. We're just issuing hollow warnings. And hollow warnings are a really dangerous thing to do, because that's exactly how World War II in Europe started, with hollow warnings from Britain and France.
But what? And we have about 30 seconds left. Aside from hollow warnings, so what should the U.S. do? Certainly, we don't want to engage in some kind of military action that would then bring us into a World War III type scenario. We have 30 seconds.
Yeah, but of course, we shouldn't be engaging in a military attack, but we can start cutting off trade and investment, especially investment into Chinese military companies. But we should be looking at investment into all Chinese companies, because they're all considered one on the part of China. It's a unitary state. We need to recognize that.
All right, Gordon Chang, as always, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on. Good to see you.
Thank you, John.
You bet.